You're still watching the morning show here on Arise News. Thank you for staying with us. It's time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. Starting with the Federal High Court in Abuja earlier in the week stopped the Central Bank of Nigeria from releasing monthly financial allocations from the federation account, to the Rivers State government. The court, among other things, held that the receipts and disbursements of monthly allocations since January this year by Governor Siminalayi Fubara have been unconstitutional. Arise correspondent Godfrey Esemohe has more.
This is another aspect of the long-drawn legal battle between the Speaker of the Rivers State Assembly, Martin Samawole, on one hand, and the Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, on the other. By the face of it, the Governor has been dealt a big blow as the Federal High Court in Abuja ruled against releasing federal funds to Rivers State. A judge, Joyce Abdulmalik, held that the central bank was under obligation to ensure that the right thing was done before money from the Consolidated Revenue and Federation accounts are released to the beneficiaries. The judge said the December 13 presentation of the 2024 budget to a 4-member House of Assembly was unlawful. The judge further held that the judgment of the Rivers State High Court, which gave power to the governor to implement the 2024 budget, had also been set aside by the Court of Appeal on October 10th. The judge therefore restrained the CBN, the Accountant General of the Federation, and 2 commercial banks from further allowing Fubara access money from the Consolidated Revenue and Federation account.
No money shall be appropriated without an appropriated bill being passed by the House of Assembly. It is very clear from the judgment of Motosho, which was confirmed by the Court of Appeal, that the budget was not properly passed. And in a situation like that, if it's not passed within 6 months, a state is not supposed to collect revenue from a consolidated fund. That is the issue of law. That is the extant provision of the law. And that's what the court has confirmed today, that the Rivers State government has not complied with the requirement of the Constitution on appropriation of bills for expenditures and all the things that they need to do in the state government. It's a very clear judgment. And then also looking at all the other judgments that have been passed in respect of Rivers State government.
Meanwhile, Fubara's legal team, after the judgment, immediately appealed the Federal High Court decision. Godfrey Esemohe, Arise News.
Well, there you have it, Mr. Steve. That landmark judgment coming in earlier this week that really did shake the foundation, of Rivers State, and a matter that, when I look at it, for a matter that is still pending in the Supreme Court and in the Appeal Court, I would look at it from the angle of us not being able to ignore the precedents that exist, and I'm making reference to the 2004 judgment to the Supreme Court. This was back in 2004. I think at the time, Yemi Oshibajo was the Attorney General for the state, and it's in Lagos State, of course. And the judgment had declared it illegal for the federal government to attempt to withhold the local government allocations to Lagos State at the time. It was declared unconstitutional. So when you look at precedents, which is what is often done in the judicial system, in the legal system, it comes off a bit interesting that allocation would be halted. That particular judgment that of course came in by I believe it was Justice Joyce Abdulmalik has really set the ball. It was a ball that was already rolling, but now it has kind of added more gasoline to the fire that already existed within the state. And really and truly, I was looking at a statement that was put out by a group, I believe it was called, they're called the Niger Delta Development Force, and they've come out to say and warned that if the judgment actually went in that way, that and they believe that it is a manipulation tactic. Of course, surely we know everything that's happening with Siminalayi Fubara and the former governor Nyesom Wike. They believe that this is another manipulation tactic, allegedly, and that they've said that if this judgment goes that way, that they will unleash attacks in Rivers State that will disrupt the flow of oil. Now, remember when militancy was at an all-time high in Rivers State. It is not something that we want to come to the surface again. The people of Rivers State have already been through a lot, all of this back and forth, and now seeing this. However, I did also see a statement that the governor had put out just hours after, the court stopped the River State allocation. Fubara actually said that he will pay contractors and civil servants. I mean, today is November 2nd, so salaries were expected to come in on the 31st, in some places on November 1st. Yeah. So he's said that regardless of the restrictions, he's going to make sure that the salaries of these workers get paid. We already have so many Nigerians that are living, when we talk about the poverty level, we know that the allocations, the salaries are something that people already struggle with. We've seen how much PMS goes for. We've seen how much inflation has gone up, how much food costs. So to now add this to the polity, I think is a very, very risky move. And I do hope that there can be some kind of conversation between the two parties involved, because really and truly, when we look at it through, without looking at it through rose-colored glasses, it's really the people of Rivers State that are going to suffer for it. So what is next for Siminalayi Fubara? He has, of course, appealed the court decision, but maybe there's a political solution to this as well as a judicial solution.
I agree with you. This is a continuation of the Wike Fubara tussle, and it is not something that will end anytime soon. It's a battle that will be fought on many turfs. The legal turf will be there. The judicial turf, of course. Like the legal turf, the political turf will be there. Different other levels where this battle will be fought, and I can assure you, if Governor Fubara survives, the fight, it will run all through the electioneering process for 2027. But what is important, I saw that you tried to draw a reference with what happened in Lagos, incidentally or interestingly, when the current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was the governor of Lagos State. But there's a remarkable difference from what happened then and what happened now. Now, what happened then had to do with what the federal government under General Obasanjo considered to be an illegality, the creation of 37 LCDAs out of the legally, constitutionally recognized 20 local government areas in Lagos. The case, of course, went to the court. The federal government stopped the allocations, meant the component of it that was meant to go to the local government, not necessarily everything that was meant to go to Lagos State, But of course, what that did for Lagos State was that Lagos was then able to work on its IGR and survive that deluge until when Yaradua, God bless his soul, came in and then pay off everything that was owed, because Lagos State won at the court. This is slightly different because it is not federal government that is fighting the River State governor. It is some aggrieved lawmakers who went to court to say that the governor is running foul of the law, claiming that they have not cross-carpeted to APC from the PDP. And therefore, the three lawmakers that Governor Fubara presented the budget for 2024 to is unconstitutional because the majority of the lawmakers were not on seat. So they are claiming that budget, because a court has ruled at the appeal level that the budget has to be represented, they went to court to say that this man has run foul of the law, and therefore the law, the dictates of the law must apply, which is that after 6 months, if you have not properly appropriated your budget, allocations to you must be stopped. But then that's the understanding that these 26 lawmakers took to the court. It's left for Governor Fubara to now go back to the court. He has appealed anyway, the same way that he's still fighting the issue of whether those 26 lawmakers legally left PDP or not. So this is a battle that will be fought in court. But I think what will not help Governor Fubara will be what might appear as tacit encouragement of those who are saying that River State will burn or that they will destroy all installations, etc., if they do not leave the governor alone for him to continue. I don't think that will help him. Essentially, this is about moral suasion. He will have to win his case in court. He will have to get smart lawyers. He will have to be convincing as to the point that these people can return to the House of Assembly because they have left the party that brought them to power. And what the law says is that once you move, new election must be conducted.
Yes.
It's a bit tight for him, but I hope that he'll be able to work the legal hurdles and bottlenecks so that River State people that you made reference to will not suffer needlessly. But it's going to be a tough battle.
Yeah.
He must be ready to fight. All right, we proceed. The Federal Capital Territory Police Command has commenced an investigation in the case of an alleged assault involving a member of the House of Representatives, Alex Ikweche. Ikweche, who represents Aba North and South Federal Constituency in Abia State, has alleged to have assaulted an e-hailing driver, Stephen Abuwasea. A video that has since gone viral shows the lawmaker slapping the driver when he requested for his delivery fee and querying if the driver knew who he was. The lawmaker also threatened to make the driver disappear without facing any consequences. In a statement released by FCT Police Command spokesman Josephine Ade, investigation had commenced into the matter. Meanwhile, the lawmaker reportedly apologized for his action, has been arraigned in court. Okay, Shaitan, do you know who I am, by the way?
No. Do you know who I am?
Do you know who I am?
You see, we've seen our lawmakers, on countless occasions do this type of thing. And when I see this kind of situations, it really
Not
makes
only
me
lawmakers, practically any big person, or anybody who considers himself to be big and seemingly above the law,
Yes.
wants to show up.
Definitely. And, for me, it really just shows this disconnect between, those who are supposed to be governing and the governed. Because when I watched that video, I really didn't see, and I read the description of what could have possibly happened. The driver had told him to come out of his premises to collect the parcel. And, since he had not, I guess, accorded him the overbearing worship, that is doled out to, those in power, he seemed to be very irritated, which is interesting because, on X and on Twitter, they've dig out everything that you've posted, and they were able to actually dig out a picture of him in the UK where he said waiting for an Uber. And I'm sure while he was in the UK, if the Uber got there, or the Uber, if it was a delivery or it was an Uber driver, he didn't have to, tell the Uber driver, oh, do you know who I am? I think it was unnecessary. There was no need for that kind of assault. I am glad about the swift, response of the police force calling him in for an investigation. Of course, he's come out to apologize, but really and truly, my thing is, if it wasn't caught on camera, if it wasn't put out there for the court of public opinion, where he could now see how Nigerians reacted to it and just kind of see how that bad behavior has really tainted who he is as a person, would he be apologetic?
Yeah.
I really hope and pray that the rights, of this poor driver in this case, and is not scuttled or mismanaged, by those who are willing to bend over backwards for those in power. Like I said, I do applaud, the police for swiftly condemning the lawmakers' actions. But really and truly, I hope that this is a lesson to those in power. Don't let it get to your head. The fact that you are, up the ladder today doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever. Treat people with the basic humanity that is needed. It's tough times out here in Nigeria. You can't afford to just be losing your temper willy-nilly.
Well said, Shaitan, but what is important is the fact that he has actually been charged to court. He's on bail for 500,000, but he will have his day in court because this is the victim is not the House of Representatives, which seems to be showing some leniency on him. His action undoubtedly is reprehensible, is condemnable, and a legal action has been instituted. I think that what the House of Representatives and all the stakeholders concerned should allow is for the case to go the whole hog.
Yes.
Even if the House feels that, okay, he has apologized and therefore let's move on. No, you don't move on in that manner. Because the gentleman that you assaulted has the right to pursue the case in court. The least that you will get is to pay some compensation to that gentleman. And it's the court that will determine that. It is also likely that if you are charged for battery, which is what the law says, you can actually serve, some time in prison. It won't matter that it's your first time or that you are a lawmaker of the Federal Republic. As a matter of fact, part of what the judge will be looking at is that you can be used as an example, because what you have done is an abuse of office,
yes.
of power. The things that he said that day, I hope that he said them just out of feeling like a big man. Not that there was something that triggered him, as people have suggested on social media, that maybe it's not the actual snails that he was waiting for, but the other kinds of snails, that get you triggered in some funny...
What was in that package?
We don't know.
People want to know.
In some funny manner. But I think that this is an important case. He should be ashamed of himself if at the end of the day he gets some time to cool off, outside of the hallowed chamber of the House. I think that it will have been deserved. This is the part. This is the part of big manism that Nigerians, show about when they think that they are bigger or higher than the average person. But everybody is equal in the face of the law. And I think that the fellow who calls himself honorable, a member of the House, has done something not very honorable, and he should be ashamed. And it's beyond that apology. That didn't sound like an apology at all. It didn't sound like an apology at all. He didn't sound sorry. He didn't feel sorry. And I think that's part of the problem that we have. He just felt that, if not because of social media, I would have dealt with this guy. Saying that you could make a man disappear shows that you do not deserve at all to be in that house. And I hope that the House will not sweep this under the carpet.
Right then, very well said, Steve. Let's move on now. The recent hike in the cost of air tickets by airline operators amid the prevailing economic hardship in Nigeria is one step that is shutting out the diminishing middle class from air travel. Airline operators have blamed ticket pricing on existing exchange rate costs and the unfriendly policies of government. Arise correspondent Oshomomo Imodu reviews the situation.
Within the space of about 40 years, over 100 airline businesses have shut down in Nigeria owing to multiple challenges. That's according to Nigeria's Aviation Minister, Festus Keyamo. The recent downturn in economy further threatens the existing operators, pushing them to adopt what is largely considered an outrageous pricing. But majority of the flying public, who are mostly those in the middle class, are now bearing the effects of the price increases.
In the long term, it's not sustainable. It is not sustainable for a variety of reasons. Like I said initially, the disposable income of the average Nigerian will determine whether or not they're able to fly. Now, if, like we're looking at it now, the exchange rate of the dollar is hitting, currently is about 1,700 thereabouts. By the time it gets to 2,000, if it ever gets there, not that we want it to get there, it will mean that more and more the number of people flying by air will reduce. Now, it becomes a juggling act for the airlines. Do we fly empty or do we accommodate more passengers on the seat? So how do we now do our pricing?
To the diminishing middle class Nigerians, air travel is more of a necessity than luxury, especially when the alternative rail and road transportation are equally in bad shape. For instance, moving from Abuja to Lagos by air will take about 50 minutes, while on road it will take about 13 hours.
Yesterday, I flew a particular airline. I think I paid up to 130,000, but then I did a research, I checked one or two. There are some for 150,000, 200 and something thousand, and all of that. It's not funny. I don't know where this country is heading to.
Comparing with what is happening in Nigeria, I don't think the federal government is supposed to, or the airline, supposed to increase the fare.
I feel it has gone too much of overboard because there is no other value added to their services. If my pocket side cannot afford the air ticket anymore, of course, I have the option of going through road.
While upward price reviews threatens the sustenance of airline businesses and the ability of the flying public to continue to fly, experts say reforms remain critical to keep airlines afloat.
In Nigeria, when airlines shout about taxes, fees and charges, that itself is a major element that is killing airlines in Nigeria. I make bold to say that the policies of government in aviation today would kill more airlines then more airlines will survive.
But in the midst of the new prices, many Nigerians are still appealing to the government and airlines to find a middle ground in ticket pricing that will be fair to all parties. Shomomo Imodu, Arise News.
I mean, Shomome has kind of said it all. It's really heartbreaking when you think about it. I mean, I only recently went on a trip to Algeria, and we had to kind of go through we had to even first go to Abuja to get our visas, but then getting to Algeria, we had to go to Doha first, and then take a flight from Doha back to Algiers. But the reason why I even mentioned that flight is because I remember getting on the plane, and we were about like 25 on like a huge, Boeing flight, Emirates flight, and it just really reflected.
2025.
Yes, not a lot of people.
Thing.
Yes, not
from Lagos to
Doha. Yes. Very, very, very surprising. And when you have conversations with the hostesses and those that deal that in the aviation sector, they are very alarmed as to how exactly this has turned out in the past couple of weeks and past couple of months. I was looking at that statement that was put out by the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, where he was indeed saying that the high mortality rate has caused the demise of 100 airlines in the last 40 years. And then, but he promised that this. I guess his current administration would end the incessant death of airlines, but it doesn't really strike me because where is the game plan? What exactly is being done? I mean, we had all this, back and forth about Nigerian Airways. The case went to court, but it's still we've not heard anything about it.
Yeah.
What exactly is being done to make sure? Because really and truly, this continues to affect, even the middle class, people that you would believe would be able to put, some monies together and be able to make these trips, are now saying, you know what? I'll rather just stay back in Nigeria. And another thing that really stands out for me as well is still this interconnectivity within African countries. We are so used to, taking flights out to Europe or to the United States or just, to the West. And there's still that disconnect when it comes to the interconnectivity. We are pushing in other ways for Africa to be more united, but really I would hope and pray that those in the aviation sector start to think about how to connect African countries, because that in itself, it promotes trade, it promotes, culture sharing. And it's just ridiculous to me that I had to go all the way to Qatar to get to North Africa.
I mean, that's the story, that's the sad story of our reality in Africa at this point in time. But for me, I think the bad policies of government that have accounted for the abysmal growth of aviation in Nigeria is one side of the coin. The other side of the bad coin is the state of the economy in Nigeria as at today. So you will have Keyamo and his ministry dealing with the root causes of why airlines keep dying or struggling to survive in Nigeria, unlike elsewhere, where there are national carriers, where there are budget airlines, where practically everybody, you don't have to be poor, rich, or upper middle class to have to fly from point A to B. But the other part will be what is even more dire at this time, which is why almost every now and then, just like the prices of food, the cost of tickets keeps rising for airlines. You know how much it will cost you now. I'm sure you know how much it costs you to go to Abuja and back, just to obtain a visa to go to another African country. And having done that, you now have to rigmarole, down to the Middle East before you now come back to the north of, Africa. Aside of the fact that it's like an Israelite, journey, it's also about the cost.
Yeah.
A number of Nigerian editors will be going to Bielsa next week for the annual All Editors Conference, and I see many editors, many of my colleagues, talking about, it looks like majority of us will have to go by road from Lagos or Abuja to Bielsa. Because even when you have United Airlines flying directly to Yenagoa, many can't just afford it. And that's the reality that we are dealing with. So anybody who thinks that Nigerians must continue to make sacrifices without addressing the fact that we have on our hands policies that appear strangulating on many Nigerians, they will be unfair to many people. Because for how long should people sacrifice if we do not deal with the things, with the root causes of these issues? The cost of food, the cost of services, cost of everything, just because we had three main hydro-headed policies that appear to be anti-people. Removal of subsidy in the manner that we did it, and at the time that we did it, the floating of the naira, which of course translates to devaluation of the naira, and of course the removal of subsidy, we would also call it, or the high cost of electricity. When you have all those things, and then the insecurity in the land that has made food production very low, you will have many people, slip down, the poverty line. Yeah. And there is no amount of way things will be better that will change the narrative. And the narrative is that an average worker in Nigeria cannot afford flight ticket from here to Yenagoa, or from Abuja to Lagos, or from Kano to Port Harcourt trying to do business. What are your alternatives? Where are the trains to connect you from point A to B? If you have to go by road, what is the assurance that you get there safely? It's a tight situation, and I hope that somebody is listening without political coloration.
Fantastic.
All right, then, with a countdown to next Tuesday's presidential election in the United States, actress and singer Jennifer Lopez introduced Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris at a Las Vegas rally on Friday that also included a performance by the pop band Maina. Lopez, in emotional remarks, talked about her background as a Puerto Rican and emphasized the importance of women for Democratic nominee. Lopez also pushed back at comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Harris, who arrived in Las Vegas after a separate rally in Reno, said she was confident she will win the election.
I am an actor and an entertainer, and I like Hollywood endings. I like when the good guy, or in this case, the good girl wins. You can't even spell American without Rican. This is our country too, and we must exercise our right to vote on November 5th.
And we need you to vote Nevada, because we have just 5 days left in one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have work to do. But we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work is joyful work. And make no mistake, we will win. We will win. We will win. We will win. And we will win. We will win, because here's what I believe. When you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. And we all know we have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other. We're done with that. We're done. We're exhausted with it. And we know that is who he is. That is who he is.
Meanwhile, former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump made a late-night campaign appearance in Glendale, Arizona on Thursday. He was joined by conservative media host Tucker Carlson during the event, which was billed as a hurricane relief benefit. Trump said his campaign was heading for one of the greatest victories of all time and called his opponents a bunch of cheats.
And I said, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it again. And we're doing well. I mean, now we're going to know in 4 days, but we're doing very well. I think we're leading by a lot. And if we can keep that cheating down, because they're a bunch of cheats, If we can keep that cheating down, we're going to have a tremendous victory. I think it'll go down as one of the greatest victories of all time. So we're going to have an exciting time. We're going to have an exciting time.
Well, it's only a couple of days away now. By this time next week, we would know who the next we would know who the next president of the United States of America is. But while we wait with bated breath, I mean, when you look at two campaigns, it's getting more and more dirty. I mean, which is what is expected in politics. But if we start with the campaign that was held in Las Vegas, where we saw Jennifer Lopez, who of course is known for her Latina heritage. We're seeing more and more Vice President Kamala Harris using a lot of celebrities, to really push her last push. We saw the likes of, I think it was last week where we saw Beyonce, Kelly Rowland, and now she's appealing to the Latina community, which is very interesting because only a couple of days ago, Donald Trump during his rally had that comedian Hinchcliffe come on, and he referred to the Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. And of course, the vice president in her team were able to just kind of use that to be able to really go for those with Latina heritage. But when we think about how the western battlegrounds of Arizona and Nevada really are like the hotly contested states in the West, it's no surprise that the campaign has gone in this direction. Other Puerto Rican celebrities have also been very critical of Donald Trump in recent days. Another person who is very popular, Bad Bunny, he's one of the world's biggest Latin music stars. He shared a Harris platform for Puerto Rico on social media, and we see with Trump having long sought to make inroads with Black and Latino men in the critical swing state of Pennsylvania. In particular, a sizable portion of the rapidly growing Latino population is of Puerto Rico heritage. So I wonder if this statement and this push that we are seeing with J-Lo supporting the vice president is going to make a dent on her polling numbers. And then when we switch to the other side with Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump, very interesting combination. It was supposed to be a kind of a relief event, but there was, I don't know if you saw the speech. It was very creepy. There was a part where he was saying the bizarre chants of "Daddy is home," and he said, what's going to happen when you've been a bad girl and you come back and Daddy's going to spank you. It was just a bit weird, considering the fact that Donald Trump has been convicted of rape, and the fact that he's making reference to the fact that when he finally gets into the White House, he's going to give the VP a spanking. It just kind of rubbed me off the wrong way. I don't know how people reacted to that, but then again, it's what is expected from Donald Trump, and we'll continue to monitor both rallies.
The point is that each side will continue to hammer on the dark and bad sides of the other side, because we are basically down to the wire. And by Tuesday we'll have a fair idea of the direction that the election will go, and then maybe a couple of days later, because of the laws in a few of the swing states that allow that you have to count till the last ballot arrives, which therefore might mean that by Wednesday morning Nigerian time, or Wednesday afternoon or evening Nigerian time, we may not necessarily have a winner yet. But you see, will there be a dent because of the island, floating island of garbage or something? I mean, it's neither here nor there. People, people are already voting, and then, but if you also flip to the other side, President Biden, practically damaged, or will seem to have damaged Kamala's campaign too, by now referring to the supporters of Trump, as the garbage, and of course they have also seized on that remark to say that you are calling more than half or about half of Americans, garbage. But then when you bring in a lot of celebrities and stuff, I think this is what makes this whole thing interesting, because when you see J-Lo, goes on stage and he's all emotional. There are other people, particularly from Trump's camp, who will say that where were her emotions when she was allegedly in the room where P. Diddy was alleged, to have done something to a 13-year-old girl and was part of all the videos and blah, blah. This is what you will get. And the interesting thing for me is that we tend to be very hard on ourselves. But looking at the American election, from their primaries to the very elections, every 4 years, I doubt if any other country, uses much vitriol the way that the American politicians, do, the way that, rich people get involved, the way institutions, and celebrities get involved in political matters. You can say that you can't totally stay away, but then it keeps dividing the country. And that's why you have the red and the blue state, ever again. But again, we will see what happens. At the end of the day, it's a toss. Either of them can win easily. Anybody that wins for me will be remarkable. If it is Kamala, first American president, looking at her story, the way she jumped on the ticket and everything. If it is Trump, even with many people find him disdainful, it will also be remarkable, given the fact that this is the total outsider in the political space who has managed to hold his own outside of the political class and establishment, who tend to say that if you do not do it our way, you can't get there. Trump is saying that I can do it without you. And if he wins, that will be remarkable. But we'll see what happens at the end of the day.